What makes a line of miniatures too old? 6 years old? 14? 24? How about some metal Necrons from 1998? Yes, before Doomstalkers and Doomscythes, Ghost Arcs, and Flayed Ones, there were these T-800 wannabes, the Necron Raiders and their Scarab colleagues. In this video, I'll be talking about the history of these models and the rules that went with them in the 90s. I'll also be painting a squad of them for your pleasure. It's time for a miniature escape with Miniscape. Sometimes a purchase costs you, and few cost me more than acquiring a full unit of these metallic mad lads and their spidery sidekicks. I decided to opt out of the original box. I draw the line somewhere. Each of the Necron warrior models from 1998 is a single piece of metal, a stamping steel skeleton grimacing from an eon of slumber, wielding a flesh-flaying ray gun, arrayed with rods and ratchets, pipes and pistons, and in some cases, some strange iconography. Truly, the Necron warrior is from another time. According to White Dwarf issue 218, in the catalogue section, there were 6 flavors of warriors, and 2 of scarabs. The warriors seem to be paired off in groups of 2. 4 of these are firing, or rather flaying from the hip, and 2 are blasting into the air without a care in the world. This is an advance on issue 217, which only showed us 3 of these guys. How sneaky. In 1998, if you wanted to add some of these legends to your collection, then £12 would get you this Necron Raiders box. 5 warriors and 2 scarabs. Individually, each raider would cost you £2, and each scarab 75p. You could also buy Necron attack skimmers and Necron leaders for £5 and £4 respectively, but I'll cover those in another video. And if you waited until February 1999, you could also buy the Immortal, but again, another video. Each warrior was intended to be slapped into a 25mm slaughter base, and so that's what I have done here. Since these are second hand, they have already been primed, but the previous owner had not trimmed the flash. I therefore gave them the necessary cleanup, along with a spot of sand on the base. And then a blast with Colourforge matte black spray. Now, White Dwarf issue 217 has this tutorial on the back for how to paint your models. A black undercoat, a silver dry brush, then picking out some details and painting the base. However, I like the look of this dude in the bottom right, so I began by having a crack at this scheme. Partway through, my lad looked like this, but my ambition was writing checks that my sanity simply couldn't cash. And while I know I have the ability to paint a Necron this way, I didn't feel up to doing it for a whole army of them, which was the end goal, you see. So dry brushing metallic it was, and I started again with Vallejo Air Aluminium, working it into my brush by rubbing it on this rough bit of plastic, and then flicking it back and forth across my model, until I had sufficiently built up the layers of silver. With this method, the recess remained black, which produced the shadows I needed, or most of them, because in some cases, my dry brushing had been overzealous. Some of the silver had seeped into the recesses, so I used a black wash to fix this issue. I didn't want the Gauss weapon to be quite so silvery, so I cracked open Black Legion Contrast and painted this all over it. For the pipes, I chose Scrag Brown, which also went on the chest symbol around the edges, and on the bits that protrude away from the circle at the center. I wanted a bit more black lining, so I chose Black Legion Contrast paint, and painted this where various sections meet, for instance between the hip joints, and around the edges of these pipes and whatnot. I then used a dark brown wash, such as Army Painter Strong Tone, to shade the cables, and also around the rivets here. Sometimes washing silver with black makes it look quite monochrome, but using a dark brown wash, in my opinion, makes it look a bit more weathered and greasy. And in my head, this Necron was a greasy boy indeed. Definitely no stranger to necking the WD-40. He does love a swig of grease. And then for some more Scrag Brown, or was it Vermin Brown? It matters not. Anyway, I used this to go over the detail on his chest again, and also to paint the ridges on the pipes around his back. I chose Vallejo flat blue to paint all the details around his chest. This looks a bit like a necklace. He may have had several eons buried in the ground, but he hasn't lost his taste in fine jewellery. Though I think I am mistaken, because White Dwarf claims that this is a gorget, a protective piece of armour or ornamental collar worn around the throat. Largely, I try to paint the raised areas of this, leaving some black in the shadows. Warpstone Glow was used as the second layer on his Gauss flare. I painted the pointy bit with a layer of this paint, and then the shafts further down. Previously, I painted this with Caliban green. Lothan blue was used to highlight the, gorget. And then some Mephiston red is used to paint his eyes and the targeter on the gun. The areas that were painted scrag brown were then painted with a layer of Avalanche Sunset, but covering a smaller area this time. Finally, on these sections, to make it look a little golden, I added a few spots of dark sands to make it pop. The corners of his chest piece are a great place to apply this, and also in the middle of the lines that I've painted Avalanche Sunset. AK Grass Green was used to paint another layer onto the Gauss flare, covering less area than with Warpstone Glow to get a sort of green gradient going. Then I finish off this gradient by mixing some white with the aforementioned green and paint it on the very edge of these parts. In this way, it looks like it's getting more bright towards the end. Evil Sun Scarlet is used to apply another layer to the eyes and the targeter on his gun and the gem in the middle of his gorget? Yeah, that thing. On the targeter, I paint a sliver like a crescent moon on one side, like I would if it was a gem. Off camera, I paint a thinner sliver with some orange, and to finish off those red areas, I add a dot of white in one section to make it look shiny and reflective. I was in the mood for brown bases this time, and the base colour I used for the bases was basically just tan earth. This goes all over the base, top and rim, finished with a dry brush of dark sand. Man, I am so predictable. Now before the reveal, let's take a little detour to discuss the old rules for these models. If you were in the hobby in 1997, you may have come across issue 216 of White Dwarf, and on the back of that issue is this interesting transcript, a transcript of an exploration of a strange pyramid, whose walls were covered with rows of swirling hieroglyph, ancient evidence of the mysterious Necron tier, a hint at dark things to come. One did not have to wait very long for the resolution of this. In the very next issue, January 1998, White Dwarf 217 introduced us to the Necrons in Warhammer 40 grand. Indeed, the issue came with a free metal miniature in a blister pack of all things. You can even see on my copy here the evidence of the pack taped to the cover. And look at this text. It's probably just a coincidence, but the shop staff have lots of Necrons. Why not ask them for one? I wish I could, White Dwarf. I wish I could. The issue that shows us the Praetorians from the Imperial Guard also shows us the first Necron miniatures. As I said before, Necrons were available in a box of 5 for £12, and they came with 2 Scarabs to boot. And there was no shortage of amazing 40k buys in this edition. What a time to be alive. Following a few pages of lore, including exposition and first-hand accounts, we arrive at the rules. Rules, you say? Yes, sir, I do. For this fine issue and the next one together, give us the 2nd edition Necron Codex. But for this video, let us focus on the warriors. They are introduced to us thusly. The Necron warrior is a mechanoid, but human in gross shape and proportion. Its armoured shell is made of materials unlike anything known to man, and equally resistant to impact and energy blasts. The Necron's internal mechanisms are complex and, to Imperial technology at least, impenetrable. Within its armoured breast, the Necron carries a device that transmits an energy pulse capable of disabling most mechanisms and electrical components. Its exact nature is not understood, but a similar, though more powerful device is employed to wipe clean the data storage of entire worlds. Necrons are capable of internal restructuring of a quite complex kind, so that machines which are apparently destroyed can often repair themselves in a short time. A self-destruct mechanism is incorporated, and Necrons which are too badly damaged to be repaired are destroyed, appearing to become transparent until they vanish completely. In the Necron army list, a Necron warrior costs 44 points. Their squads are 3 to 10 strong. Their profile is like that of a Space Marine, but with 1 more pip of toughness, an initiative of 5, and a leadership of 10. Not that they need it, since they never have to take leadership tests. Necrons have a 2+ save, which makes sense since they are a slab of metal. If the armor save is not enough to protect the Necron, and it indeed takes a wound, then it falls to the ground as if destroyed. However, do not remove the model, lay it on its side instead. The Necron takes no part in the game whilst on the ground, and cannot be harmed. At the start of each Necron turn, roll a die. On a score of 6, the Necron is repaired. It rises to its feet and can immediately move and fight as normal. Note that it may not be able to shoot if it is isolated. I'll explain that shortly. On a score of a 1, the Necron is beyond repair, and it fades away and vanishes. Remove the model from play. On a score of a 2 to 5, the Necron remains on the ground. Roll again at the start of the next Necron turn. Because of this rule, it's possible Necrons may become isolated. Specifically, that a model may not be within 2 inches of another model. If that is the case, they cannot shoot until they get within 2 inches of a squad of the same type. If the entire force is reduced to 25% or less of its original number at the start of any Necron turn, then the whole army will mysteriously fade and vanish. To be clear, if 75% of your Necrons have been removed from play or are lying on the ground, then the game is over for you. The rest of the army votes with its feet and bugs out. Necrons also generate interference for any electrical or magnetic equipment. This rule is known as Disruptor Zone. Any enemy model within 6 inches of a Necron suffers the following penalties. A vehicle or dreadnought will only have half movement at best if within 6 inches of a Necron, and to enjoy this, it needs to roll a 4+ on a d6 at the start of its turn. Failing this, it will not be able to move at all. In addition, anytime a model tries to shoot a weapon within 6 inches of a Necron, it suffers an additional -1 to hit. Even Tyranid weapons are affected by this. In hand-to-hand combat, models have to use their strength only. They cannot use the strength of any assault weapons that they are armed with. Necrons are armed with Gauss flayers, named such as it strips the layers from its target until it vanishes. I like to call it the undressing gun. I think you know why. It's a strength 4 weapon with a 24-inch range, getting +1 to hit at short range, which is 6 inches. The save modifier is -2, like shuriken catapults, and it has the metal flayer special rule. This means if you roll a 6 when determining armor penetration, you may roll another d6 and add this to the final score for a total of 10 + d6. Now, that's not too lethal versus armored vehicles, but in tandem with Scarabs, they can pose a significant threat. You see, Scarabs have the Metal Eater special rule. While the Scarab is on a vehicle, the armor value is reduced by 3. This applies to every part of the vehicle, and is cumulative for every Scarab nibbling on its rivets. So 2 Scarabs would reduce every location's armor by 6. 3 Scarabs? Oh, you know how this pattern works. That's a reduction of 9, son. The 3 times table, everyone. Let's learn a little more about the Scarabs, shall we? Necron raiding forces are accompanied by numerous machines, of which the most common are weird beetle-like devices called Scarabs. The Scarab's segmented body looks like a cross between a robotic skull and an armoured insect. It scuttles on the surface using its insectoid legs. but can also unfold its wings and take to the air. Scarabs have a strange profile. 2 movement values. We'll get back to those. A low weapon skill, and no ballistic skill to speak of. A toughness of 8 though, and a 2+ save. Scarabs move not in squads, nor even as swarms on bases, like in later editions. Instead, they roam the battle freely, and individually, making a nuisance of themselves. Enemies do not have to shoot at them if they are the closest target, since they do not have much of an offensive capability. Getting back to their movement, they can move 8 inches along the ground, or move 16 inches to avoid intervening obstacles. So it's not like they move with a jump pack, but they don't scatter, and in fact, there's no rules saying that there's a maximum height that they can jump over. Scarabs repair in the same way as Necron warriors, and they have the same disruption zone as Necron warriors. If you want to include them in your army, they cost 30 points each, though you can only take 2 for every 5 Necron warriors. In the same issue in which you find these rules, there are some ideas for using Necrons in your games of Warhammer 40 grand. Smaller games were recommended, such as 500 points. One player plays the Necrons, and another plays some flavour of the Imperium. The Necron player was to use the contents of the box, 5 warriors and 2 scarabs. The Imperial player was to use 500 points of basic troops, such as Imperial Guardsmen or Tactical Space Marines, with limited heavy weapons. Imperial forces came equipped with a special jamming device, an experimental Gauss jammer that prevents Necron warriors from disintegrating when they are destroyed. The Imperial player's objective, then, is to capture at least one Necron warrior by planting one of these devices on the warrior and then destroying said model. Jammers can be attached in hand-to-hand combat, or the jammer can be thrown at them just like a grenade. The Necron player's objective: simply annihilate the enemy force. The game ends when either all the Imperial forces are dead or fleeing, or there are no Necron warriors on the table apart from those that have been captured. When a Necron that has a jammer on it is removed from play, roll a d6 for each jammer on the Necron. If any of the dice score 6, the jammer has worked and it has been captured. The mission is also playable with non-Imperial troops, but you are encouraged to only take basic troop types, such as Eldar Guardians or Orc Boys. No big groups of heavy weapons to avoid unbalancing the scenario. As always with Warhammer, the word balance should be taken with a pinch of salt. If you have 2 Necron box sets, you can use both, and the other player still takes 500 points, though he may bring on overwhelming force at the start of any of his turns to destroy all the Necrons. These troops that make up the amorphous overwhelming force are not armed with jammers. I suppose players have to agree what overwhelming force means, though perhaps it's just every other model that you own. In 3rd edition 40k, White Dwarf 230 gave us rules for Necrons, with these same models in mind, but long before the 3rd edition codex was released. A Necron warrior was basically a Space Marine, but with Initiative 2 and Leadership 10. They cost 18 points, came in squads of between 5 and 10, and were armed with Gauss guns. New to this edition were Gauss grenades, which cost 2 points per model. These grenades are used in assault against vehicles, and any hits inflicted cause a glancing hit on a roll of a 6, regardless of armor value, and only 1 attack can be made per assault phase per model. Gauss guns are like bolters, with the added special rule that they will always score a glancing hit on a score of a 6 when rolling a d6 to see if a vehicle's armor is penetrated. So even if you were shooting at a Land Raider with armor 14, rolling a 6 on penetration still counts as a glancing hit, even though the total would only be 10 normally. Necrons are somewhat affected by morale in this edition. They will fall back, though they automatically regroup like Space Marines, and the requirements for them to be at 50% strength before regrouping are ignored. They are defeated if 75% of the army is destroyed, just like in 2nd edition. Scarabs work a bit differently though. They come in units of between 3 and 5, cost 6 points each, and can explode. They move and fight in the same way as jet bikes. Instead of attacking in close combat, they can self-destruct instead. They cause 1 automatic strength 3 hit on every unit they are in base contact with an AP value of 2. Armor penetration versus vehicles is 2d6 plus 3. The Scarab is then removed from play. Finally, and unsurprisingly, Necrons have a "we'll be back" rule. A test is made at the start of the Necron turn for each Necron warrior that has taken a wound and is out of action. Said Necron warrior must be within 6 inches of another functional Necron of the same type. If a 4 or more is rolled for that model, then they may join the unit they are closest to and are moved within 2 inches of it. They may then move and fight as normal with that unit. On a roll of a 1, 2 or 3, they are removed from play. If they are not within 6 inches of a model of the same type, they are also removed from play. This does not apply to Necron Lords, who can always roll to see if they will be back. Necrons killed by a weapon double their strength are removed from play, since they suffer from the instant death special rule. After all, there's no reassembling them when their bits are all over the battlefield. And there we have it, 5 Necron warriors and 2 Necron Scarabs. Which, okay, I haven't showed you how to paint the latter. But have a good look at this, and you can see that I use the same colours, just in different places. Scrag Brown, Avalanche Sunset, and Dark Sand on the face. Hang around for a minute, will you, while I give every model a moment in the spotlight. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, baby. Those guns. Those pistons, those cables, and that damned smile. I do believe these Necron miniatures, while short-lived, are my favourites. But I do like old things, and that should surprise no one. I'm just predictable like that. Of course, I have a few more Necron models to paint. The original Lord, and a Destroyer or 2. I'll be sure to feature those in a future video. So worry not. Necron Hour is far from over. Remember, if you like what I do, you can always press all the buttons on YouTube. Leave a kind comment, or if the spirit moves you, bless me with a blessing on Ko-fi. I also have Instagram, which gets regular posts. On there, you may see such facts such as this, that I also painted a load of Space Crusade Chaos androids to fill out my Necron army. Since these were easier to find and close enough to be a Necron. And while you were typing about how you wouldn't allow their use in a game with me, don't worry, I rarely have time to play anyway. Ha ha ha. Oh, the realities of life. And with that, I'd better go paint some more minis. Take care, and thanks for watching. Come forth, you scarabs, come to the fight. Round up destroyers, lounge chairs and flights. Shake off the dust, now let's do it right. Kill us and we'll be back tonight. Necron, Necron, we're the Necrons. Our weapons are flesh strippers, that conclusion is foregone. Necron, Necron, we're the Necrons. Metallic walking skeletons.